Right, Colin, thanks for joining us and doing one of the series of the podcast that we were going to do. Tell us about your division. What does it do? What do you specialise in?
We're a small department. I would say we've got 4 elements to us. So we're rope access, NDT, we've got the fabric maintenance, and we've got the lifting equipment inspection. So they're the 4 main elements of the business, and we have our own separate contracts, but we also work with a lot of the departments within the group.
So what sectors do you work in, and who are your sort of typical clients that you facilitate work for?
Sectors, it's a business that's hugely transferable into all sectors. Predominantly we work in marine, oil and gas, and we're doing little bits and pieces with the renewables. We'd like to make a push on that, but ultimately it's trying to get access to the market and understand the market a little bit. But yeah, so predominantly those areas. We've just won a contract in the utilities market, and we're speaking with another utilities company, and it seems to be progressing well.
So how long what's your background? Where have you come from? What makes you sort of fit for purpose for running the division?
Well, fit for purpose, maybe not really answer. You could ask someone else and they might say something differently. But
that's after this
is after this. My background is inspection NDT predominantly, and I and a colleague of mine set up a company doing rope access, inspection, lifting equipment and maintenance, which we sold in 2018, and from there I have kept my hand in it a little bit by working here and working on a few other projects out with the oil and gas industry. So certainly from a management perspective, I wouldn't say I'm the best manager in the world, but I know how to speak to people, and I know how to certainly get involved with the oil and gas side, because that is my background. Accessing new markets is interesting, and accessing new ideas, that's what I'm keen on. The business development side, that's really something I'm interested in. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's my...
So obviously when you were working with Chris to sort of, or Chris convinced you to join the team temporarily, it's temporarily turned into sort of semi-temporary sort of, you've been here a while, now. So
it's semi-temporary, and that's a good word for it. Yeah, I'm happy to help, and I want to prove myself, to progress the business for Chris and his dad. I think that what they're trying to do, I've got a lot of admiration for what they're trying to do, and it's an absolute ball ache as well at the same time, excuse my French, to get there. And I know some of the things that we found challenging to get us to that stage. So hopefully with my input and the guys in the department, so Graham and Ross, who head up Asset Integrity from rope access perspective, which is Ross, and Graham from an inspection perspective, the team around us, we've got a good mix. So it's not to say I know everything, I certainly don't. It's not to say the guys know everything, they certainly don't, but we can bounce off one another, and we've all got the same goal at the end of the day, is to make the business profitable and enjoyable.
What is it about the TEXO environment and TEXO Asset Integrity that you find compelling?
Again, it's kind of, we've been given free rein, or I certainly have been given free rein to turn the department into something, not just a work environment, but somewhere you come in and you can speak to your peers. And it's certainly the same with, like, so Chris and everyone, I'm not saying everyone, but the majority of people here, you can sit and have a chat with them and speak openly, and it's quite a comfortable environment to do so, and that's one of the reasons why I've stayed for as long as I have, helping in my temporary role.
So how competitive is your field currently, especially within the sort of the Aberdeen area, which is sort of very clicky anyway.
Yeah.
But so how competitive is it out there?
Yeah.
And how is TEXO sort of asset integrity bucking the trend on that?
It's extremely competitive. That's the issue with Aberdeen. It's not what you know some of the times, it's who you know, and that's the difficulty when a company starts and comes to the forefront and trying to win these contracts without a track record as a business, but a track record with the people. So trying to do things a wee bit differently, more so we're trying to focus on the fabric maintenance side of the business. Inspection NDT is extremely saturated and extremely difficult to get into, and there's a lot of legislation to progress further within operators. So we've kind of seen a route to market and to expand the business in the fabric maintenance side. Fabric maintenance is a broad spectrum, and it's not just oil and gas. And again, Ross Lowe, who's heading up the fabric maintenance department, he knows he knows a considerable amount about it. He's worked in that industry for about 25 years now, and has very good contacts within it, and we seem to be doing well on the jobs that we've done and getting extremely good reports, to the extent that we're getting further purchase orders from various clients on it.
It was a while back someone said to me that the unique aspect about asset integrity was the ability for it to hold on to its staff, where a lot of other sectors or divisions within TEXO or other companies have a relatively high turnover. What's the reason for that? What's the success for that?
It's me.
I knew you were going to, yeah. Are you paying them extra?
Well, they get very well paid. No, I think again, we all get on as a department, a group. We all have that same end goal. We know that the more work that we have, the better for the group and the better for ourselves. And job security is one of the other areas. Yeah, again, there are a lot of businesses in the area well established, but they're a much bigger machine than this. So you can't really manipulate things to the way it should work. Rather than doing that, we can kind of sculpt it to the way we want it to work. And I think that's one of the reasons why. And as I say, the guys, great bunch of guys that we've got working for us in the office and out on the field as well.
So is it the flexibility that TEXO offers allows us to be more competitive or more agile on projects, or is it a different way of working? You're trying to introduce something that's different into the industry.
I would say what we're offering isn't unique. We don't have a new piece of equipment that no one else has, but what we do have is we're quite open with our clients, and TEXO as a group can move quickly. We can react to it rather than having to go through reams and different procedures and processes and sign-offs. We can make the decisions there and then, and we can get the job done and get guys on site. For example, we got a phone call on last Friday, and we had the guys in France Sunday morning, first thing. So the client was extremely happy with the quick turnaround for that, and it's saving them a huge amount of money. Gives us a bit of grief to begin with, but once it's there, the relationships have already been made with the client, and they've got us now as their approved supplier, and we are the first port of call for them now.
3 things that you would want to change in the industry.
You'd want to change, but trying to change them. Everyone wants change in this industry, but no one's willing to take the risk to do it. And
but then we're almost saying that TEXO is not risk averse. It will take those risks if we could change the industry.
If it's measured risk, yeah, 100%. Going to operators and businesses, that have worked in the different sectors for these number of years, they do things exactly the same. Nothing really changes. The commercial side is getting more and more heavy. We need to try and get away from the commercial side and actually get the guys on the job rather than reading reports after reports and contracts after contracts. So I think that's really holding the industry back throughout all sectors. There's all these tick box exercises. I understand it from a liability perspective, but gone are the days where you can just rock up to a site and get the job done, leave, everyone's happy, and that's it. Obviously, safety paramount, but ultimately, at the minute, there's so many hurdles to jump to get to these places.
Do you think that because of the bureaucracy that sort of has increased over the years, has a knock-on effect that the job costs twice as much as it should do?
We're, as an industry, as an area, take the oil and gas industry as a whole, we're hugely priced out of the market, where people are getting paid a king's ransom, some rightly so, some not rightly so, and yeah, there'll come a point where there's it happens all the time, there's going to be a dip again and people are going to notice it. So at the minute, things are really rosy, so clients and customers are just wanting jobs done, and yeah, within reason, but ultimately come time, as an oil and gas service provider, we need to be reactive to these changes, and when it comes down to costs and pricing out the market, having all these people in overhead jobs costs a business. Especially as well, having the accreditations that are required to work on these sites costs a huge amount of money, and it's not just a case of getting accreditations, it's the upkeep of the accreditations, it's the people that you have to pay to look after them, and then the people on site to look after all the documentation, keep the documentation, then the auditing companies. That cost has to get covered from somewhere, and ultimately it's the client that has to pay for it, but it's the client that requests it, and then the client asks, why is it so expensive? And it's for all these reasons we need to fulfill the criteria to get the guys in the job, and ultimately it has a knock-on effect. So cost and positions within the business that I see that aren't hugely required needs sorted throughout every industry. Everything's done by ticking boxes and signing documents rather than getting a job done. Sorry, I carried on a bit too much there.
No, well, that was probably 1, 2, and 3 in that. You mentioned sort of we mentioned staff sort of retention within your sort of service sector. How important are staff in the operation of what you do?
They're the key to it. Operations and inspection, integrity, rope access. It's not just a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. You're always getting contacted, whether it be on a message or an email. It never stops because the guys are away and they need to know certain information, or they need flights. It's highly dependent on the operations team.
Growth plans.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you? Obviously, I think that the need is to have you full time. But how is growth? Where do you see asset integrity being in 12, 18 months' time?
In 12 months' time, we need to look at what we've got here and what's on our doorstep rather than spending money and going elsewhere. There's a lot of opportunity in the Northeast and in the UK as a whole. So we need to go and do our networking for our area here that we know and understand. And then I see the US as a big market for inspection integrity. There's not as governed to the extent it is in the UK, but there's certainly been a lot of incidents and accidents over there that will come a point where it's going to be as governed as HSE do within the UK. So I think the US is a market, a route to market. We are speaking with a company across there to partner us there and them here, but that'll be a slow burner for just now. We need to get our ducks in a row here. As I say, I've stepped into the role interim to get things going, and then we'll see what happens.
You mentioned oil and gas being obviously an area that we're very comfortable in, and we're expanding, but very heavy sort of bureaucracy and things. But you also mentioned at the beginning of the interview utilities.
Mm-hmm.
So is this division trying to branch out away from its sort of comfort zones within the oil and gas?
Yeah, excuse the pun, but the utilities market it's untapped. It's where the oil and gas was in the 80s and 90s. That instead of fix on failure, they're now looking at risk-based inspection, and that's something we fit into perfectly with all the departments within the group, and doing baseline surveys. So we've, as I said to you before, we've won a contract with a big utilities company in the middle of the UK, and that seems to be opening doors for other areas within the business. Engineering fabrication, we've just put some work their way, and then there's another utilities company down near your neck of the woods that we're speaking to about the risk-based inspection approach for vessels, tanks and pipework. And it's all low pressure, but at the same time it still needs to be checked and looked after, and they're looking for a company to help put in an inspection regime for them. So we're speaking to them, and certainly we'll speak to any utilities company. As I said, what we offer is transferable to any industry, and there's not much to change, if anything, to get into these other industries.
How have you embraced technologies, the burst in technologies? I know that obviously you're very averse with how TEXO DSI and the drones and the advancement in technologies in that sector. How have you embraced it, and do you use those new types of technologies in what you to improve your offering?
It's certainly DSI and Asset Integrity have a close working relationship, which is what we need. The utilisation of drones for inside tanks, inside vessels, save man entry is exactly what we're trying to sell as a business. We're trying to mitigate the risk, and if we don't have to put people in dangerous or areas of concern, then all the better, using drones, crawlers. When it comes down to inspection techniques have stayed the same. We're not a development company. We don't perceive ourselves to be that. We're using what's off the shelf, and trying to obviously save costs for clients at the same time by our reporting. We've got an online reporting database and portal, and working with the guys in TEXO Technologies, hopefully we can link what we are doing into the asset management of like your Maximos and SAPs with our inspection reports. So yeah, everyone talks about technology. As a business stream, as Asset Integrity, we use it to a certain extent, but that's not what we're all about. We're boots on the ground, getting guys out and doing the jobs.
All right. Well, I think we've sort of covered a lot of the topics there. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Off the top of my head, not really.
Right.
I think that as a department, we're small at the moment. We're working towards building our reputation, which is going quite well. We've got a few contracts where we're now the preferred supplier on these contracts, and it's just a matter of taking what comes and building on it, building the team, and seeing what 2023 has to offer.
One of the things I wanted to come back to, you mentioned about the sort of I think you were sort of skipping around the edge of the complexities or the issues with current procurement within the industry. Do you see that as a hurdle, or an area that seriously needs to change to allow fairness to permeate through?
It needs a change, in my honest opinion. It needs a change, but also the companies that want it to change need to show willing as well. It has to work both ways. It's not just one way, but ultimately it's a bottleneck because there's so many I's to dot and T's to cross, and it all comes down to liability. And if we can mitigate the risk when going for these jobs and when working on these jobs, then that'll hopefully make things a lot easier too. But yeah, the whole commercial piece, in my mind, in every industry needs looked at. We are 1 year into signing a contract for a utilities company, and we've not done a job yet, even though we've signed the contract. And that's because there's so many contract amendments, not from our side, but from our client side, coming back and forth. So 1 year, how many people on their side, how many are people on our side? It's costing tens of thousands, and being a utilities company, it's taxpayers' money. So it's all costing us, which...
So it sort of negates the actual benefits of procurement, where it's a fair and open, obviously to try and choose the most competitive firm and the best one positioned to do the work. Procurement is there to sort of make sure it's a level playing field and it's fair. So really, do you think the actual primary mechanism of procurement is broken?
It depends. Some of our clients, it works perfect. Once the contracts are in place, there's no issues. But there's always something that needs reviewed or changed. Whether it's jobs for the boys, I don't know. It's just I think there's an issue there. I can't put my finger on it. It's not down to me to say that. But for the operators, for the managing companies that want things to happen, I think there's a lot of internal politics needs changed before things will become a lot easier for everyone.
Do you think there's a lot of the time procurement, when you enter into a procurement process, it's almost like we're making, or clients are making, or companies are making the numbers, rather than they've already made the decision who they're going with? They just need to go through the procurement process to fulfill a box ticking exercise. Exactly.
And that's what it is. It's a box ticking exercise. Not all the time, but a lot of the time it's totally.
Are you, when you talk to clients, are you able to have that transparent conversation with them about procurement?
It depends how well I know them, but generally yes. If I know someone well enough to have these conversations, I will bring it up. I'm not shy coming forward. I think that they'll say themselves something needs change, because our clients are the ones that want the jobs done, as are we. There's a process in the middle that's holding it up.
So in a way, some of these procurement processes actually end up with the job costing more than it should do, taking longer than it should do, and can end up with the job being done by the wrong people just because they've agreed on a certain price.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think again, going on days where people are just going for best price and best response, because there's a lot of internal dealings going on as well. Friends of friends, handshakes. People said that's finished. In my opinion, it's not finished. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's true.
Well, it's the one thing that I've come to respect really about TEXO is about it's not afraid of talking about the challenges in the marketplace, and actually wanting to talk about them and bringing them to the forefront, because I think a lot of people do want to sweep them under the carpet and think that it's just part of life. And I think the more companies that do talk about it, I think the better it'll be for everybody. So I think that's the one thing I do like about TEXO is, the motto, together we are one, and it's very difficult to be one when the processes don't seem to be transparent and fair, where TEXO is transparent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think transparency needs to be from both sides, not just one side. And if the clients already know they've got a preferred supplier, why waste everyone's time to put together tenders? Some of these tender submissions can take 2-3 months to prepare, cost a huge amount of money, and then you get told thanks but no thanks. We need to have a bit of strategic thinking around the room. It's just costs everyone money, and then no wonder the price of work goes up because of this unnecessary, 9 times out of 10 unnecessary system.
All right. Well, appreciate your honesty with all of that, Colin. And I'll be hassling you over the next few months to do another thought piece on another area of the industry. So thank you very much.
No problem. Cheers.